Hello everybody, this is Rob with Yoro Adventures. I wanted to, well, as you guess, we're stuck at home. We're hitting round 2 of COVID, so guess what? We're being advised not to leave the state, and if we do, there are quarantine rules in place, and so, instead of going out and riding like we normally do, I'm stuck here at home. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It means that I have to be creative on how to get more videos out there for you guys to look and enjoy. I was going through my videos from a couple years ago and realized I hadn't posted some of the videos I was really looking forward to doing, which happens, I guess, when you get busy. So in this video today, I wanted to publish and show you a video. And I'm sorry for the lighting. It is dusk. It's been over 100 degrees here, and I'm taking advantage of the sun going down and it cooling off for me to come outside and enjoy a little bit of outdoors and fresh air. But going back to the video, I wanted to share an area that's near and dear to our heart. My wife and I try to go up every year. Sometimes we don't, but in this video, we are going up into the Silverton area to access one of our favorite trails, which is called the Alpine Loop. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and get this video started. I'll start with showing you on a map where it's at, and I'll explain a little bit of the area so you get a chance to understand the area, what we learned by going up there. Now, this is probably our 7th or 8th year of going up, and I hope if you get a chance, this is definitely a bucket list area to go riding. So I highly recommend, if you have a Jeep, ATV, dirt bike, UTV, or anything off-road capable, going up in this area. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So today we are heading up into the Silverton, Colorado area. Silverton is just over the pass from Durango, Colorado. We are on our way up to go riding in an area called the Alpine Loop. Now, the Alpine Loop itself is a 63-mile trail loop that takes you up through Lake City and Ouray. It typically takes 4 to 6 hours to complete on a normal day without very much traffic and good weather. But on this day, we spent 9 hours riding through these mountain passes and just doing some exploring. Now, this area was the first time that we brought my son with us. Because of the advanced riding that is required in this area, we decided it was good when he finally got his license to be able to bring him up. Now, I want to prep everybody. There are rules and regulations of being up here. You do need a Colorado off-road vehicle permit, no matter if you already have an off-road vehicle permit from the state you currently come from. It is something that is highly enforced, and as you'll find pretty quickly while entering the Alpine Loop, there's plenty of forestry people and law enforcement people making sure that everyone is obeying the laws that they have for this area. Some of the other rules that we came across that may change the dynamics of your trip is that if you have somebody driving an ATV side by side, they must be of driving legal age and have a valid driver's license. If you don't, you will be stopped and you will not be allowed to go any further. The other thing that they do enforce quite heavily is the use of helmets. So come prepared, be safe, and be ready for one of the best adventures you can have in your life. So a little bit about the area. The Alpine Loop is a trail system or a road that was built for miners that date back to the early 1800s. A lot of these trails were created so that way they had a way of bringing by donkey or horseback and cart all the ore that they mined out of the area. Most of the mines are gold mines, and this area was definitely created during the gold rush. There are some silver mines and other types of mines, and surprisingly there are still some active mining happening in the area. What I really enjoyed about this place is that depending on where you are riding, you will come across various ghost towns, and the way they have it set up is that as long as you don't disturb the historic site, you're more than happy and welcome to go and explore on your own. Now, about 2/3 of the Alpine Loop is accessible by the average SUV, which means you and your family can get into a standard SUV with radial tires and still enjoy the area. There's a train that takes you from Durango to Silverton if that is something you're interested in. There's also in the town of Silverton great places to eat and places where you can rent Jeeps, cabins, ATVs, UTVs. Not only are there rules in this area stretches elevations starting at 8,000 feet and exceeds 12,500 feet. The two most common passes that the Alpine Loop crosses are the Engineer Pass and the Cinnamon Pass. Both are above 12,000 feet. There's other passes that you can check out, like the California Pass, in which I will try to post some videos of that pass at a later date. But when you're up at that altitude of over 12,000 feet, you feel like you're really at the top of the world. There are high altitude fields in which you'll find Rocky Mountain sheep and bighorn sheep, and you also see glacier fed lakes and high altitude lakes. We always love coming up here. Because of the severe altitude, people that are coming from sea level do find themselves in situations where they may be getting sick from altitude sickness. And because of that, you'll find most of the areas in Silverton and Ouray that sells sporting goods equipment will also carry and offer oxygen canisters. That is something I actually do recommend. I've been on some of these passes where I've come across people who live at sea level, and they're struggling to catch their breath. I myself live in an area above 8,000 feet and still find myself struggling when we're going and exploring above 12,000 feet. So I can't imagine what it's like if you're not used to it. The weather does drastically change on the trail. For instance, on this ride, we started off at about 75 degree weather at base camp, but by the time we got to Engineer Pass, it was raining, hailing, and approximately in the high 50s. On another ride, we got caught up in a snowstorm, and it was in the middle of July. So there are some things to know when going in these areas. The trail only opens up in late May, sometimes early June, and they do close it in October, depending on the weather. It is next to impossible to do any type of travel in this area past those times because they do lock down the mountain range, and I don't know if you would quite want to be stuck out here. When I say this is being out in God's country, that is exactly what it is. You're in an area where there are unique wildlife, rare wildlife, and lots of it. You'll find a lot of traffic in the lower elevation trails, but as you go up higher, you'll find people who are a little bit more adventurous going up there in that area. But I do recommend bringing a map, as there's very limited cell service once you get up into the higher elevations. We always make sure to pack for pretty much all types of seasons. So in our kit, we'll have rain gear, a little bit of winter gear, and build a shed and add layers as we go along. We also pack plenty of water, make sure we have everything that we need just in case we break down, and of course snacks and food, so that way you don't get tired and lose energy and hungry, and especially in a situation where you're not close to camp. One of the neat things that we've seen in this area is that depending on how remote you get, we've found some mines in which you could actually walk into them. A lot of the mines are very dangerous to be in, so I don't recommend this to be something that everybody tries. But to give you an idea, this is just one of those things that if you have an adventurous spirit, you can definitely stretch that a little bit and get an adventure of your life. The Alpine Loop itself is pretty maintained, but if you go on some of the other trails, you'll find yourself on switchbacks where there's easily a 200 to 400 foot drop on one side of the road. So an error of any magnitude can become very fatal very quickly. So this is my son's first time being up in this area, and we decided to let him drive our older ATV. It's a 2008 Honda Rancher 420. It has a manual transmission, so going up these hills can be a little bit challenging, but I wanted to teach him a valuable lesson, and that was while it's easy to drive an ATV by just pointing the vehicle and using the throttle and brake out in the desert or in easy country roads, when you're up in this area, you have to think tactfully, and that kind of thinking is something that will be the difference between a good trip and a bad trip. So for the first part of the trip and the ride, my son drove the Honda Rancher, and eventually I let him drive my ATV, which is a little bit easier to drive and the suspension is a little bit more forgiving. There are plenty of roads that cross water tributaries, very steep inclines, switchbacks, rock climbs, and shale rock road. So, you can get different types of challenges, but the nice thing is they do spend quite a bit of time making sure that everybody's prepared by putting up signs that warn you of the difficulty level of the trail you're about to ride. There are also rules in place, so when you're up in the higher elevation trails, they have one-way restrictions, and they also have right-of-way restrictions. And basically what that means is anybody going uphill has a right-of-way, so people going downhill are being asked by law to pull over and let you pass. If you find yourself up in this area, just make sure you come well prepared. There's a lot of resources both online and when you get into both Ouray and Silverton. Most of the gas stations, restaurants, and sporting good places offer free maps, and the permit that I mentioned earlier is not very expensive. I believe it's about $15 or $20 per vehicle. They do not have any fees for entering the area like you do in Yellowstone, but come prepared. It makes your trip go a lot smoother. So in this part of the video, you'll see we're pretty much just driving up and down dirt roads of various different difficulties. This is our first day of riding. We wanted to kind of take it easy, get my son broken in, and let him see the area. Well, enough of me talking about the area. I'll let you just enjoy the ride and some of the photos that I posted. But I'll put some music so that way you just don't hear the drone of the engine, but we'll pick up later in the video. Here we're arriving at the Sound Democrat Mill. The Sound Democrat Mill is an amalgamation stamp mill built in 1906 to process ore from one Sound Democrat mine. The mill was constructed with 4 large stamps. Between 1909 and 1914, the mill was operated by Joe Terry, son of the well-respected mining man and county judge, John Terry. Terry added 3 additional stamps to the mill in 1909 and crushed gold and silver lead-bearing ores from the Sound Democrat mine and the nearby Silver Queen mine. The mill is one of the most intact examples of an amalgamation stamp mill on public lands in the western United States. Here are some photos we took while we wandered around the site. Hope you enjoy. Well, enough looking around, back on the trail. So we're pulling up into the California Pass area. I will get my drone up so you can kind of see what it looks like, but it's definitely top of the world experience, and you can see for many, many miles. So I hope you enjoy the drone footage. Something I love about this area is the remoteness. I have the ability to go riding from my house in the desert, be up in the mountains an hour away from my house, and be in various different types of climates and terrain. This area is something very unique that you only find in the Continental Divide of the Rocky Mountains. One thing that we love doing is once we finish a pass or a gulch, we will, when we get into Silverton, usually in the afternoon, to go get some dinner at our favorite place, which is surprisingly, you would think it would just be dessert, but it's a funnel cake factory. If you go in there, the owner works there and his family, but they do serve Indian taco funnel cakes, and if you ask him politely, sometimes he has green chili to add some flavor and spice to the meal. But what we do enjoy doing is after we finish a pass. So for instance, if we just finished California Pass or Cinnamon Pass, when you get back into town, you can go into some of the stores and find stickers as badges of the passes that you completed. It's one of our favorite souvenirs that we have. And matter of fact, we have pretty much now through the years gone through almost all the passes. The one that we have not done yet is more on the Ouray side, which is Black Bear Pass. And that one, if you're interested, look it up on YouTube. It is a hair-raising experience, and it's something that only experienced riders with well-equipped vehicles should ever attempt. But, enough of the cautionary tales. I'm just trying to give you the information that we wish we would have had the first time we went up. And understand this is an area where the adventure can become very serious very quickly. So I would rather give you the information up front so you can come back and say, that was an experience of a lifetime. In my book, this is a bucket list area, so we always just love coming up here and seeing what's new. And the interesting thing is you get to meet a lot of very nice people. There are primitive camping sites, so you can go find camping on your own, but because of the amount of people that are up in the area, sometimes that can be challenging. So we like to stay at one of the 2 campsites. There's one just outside of Silverton, literally at the entrance of the Alpine Loop, and then the other one is right outside of town. Both offer campsites, primitive or basically established campsites, basic toilet facilities, and the one that's right out of town actually has shower facilities, very reasonable, and they do have cabins you can rent. As a pro tip, if you're bringing your kids up there, or you're wanting to try something different, one of our favorite things to do is to go to the old 100 mine. Now, the interesting thing is, my wife and I, right after we got married, went up on our first trip up to Silverton, and I'm talking at least 15 to 20 years ago. We stopped at the old 100 mine. We actually more or less stumbled on it, and what we found was a really, really neat experience. Basically, it's a retired mine that still has active equipment. So when you go up there, you pay a small fee. You get to pan gold out of their sluice boxes, and then they will take you approximately 1 mile to 2 miles down underground and give you a tour of a mine and how the miners worked. So you'll get to see the equipment work. And the gentleman that does the mine tour has been doing it as long as we've been going up there. And he is a great guy of older age, but he does do one hell of a good tour of the mine. Highly recommend it. It's well worth the short drive out of town of Silverton and a little bit of money for the tour. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is the first video of 2. This video is considered our day 1 experience. I may post more, but I'm trying to make sure that I at least get some of these videos out so you can enjoy them. So that way, if you end up in the area, you can be prepared and know, maybe plan a trip up in this neck of the woods. I can't go without saying thank you for watching. Please subscribe. I hope you comment and you follow us on Facebook. By you subscribing, it helps us tremendously. So if there's one thing I can ask for the time that it takes to put these videos, please take a moment and subscribe and tell your friends about it. I'm learning every day how to do videos better and better, so I'm hoping that you enjoy these videos and give constructive feedback. I'll always try to answer within a day. And with that being said, I hope to see you out on the trails. I appreciate you taking the time, and once again, don't forget to subscribe.